insurance is very, very high. And that's what they suggest we charge to cover what we pay for insurance.
Well, they'd have to pay that insurance whether they had any car there or not.
Okay.
Because they have to have the insurance to cover the fact that it's a secure area. So they're going to pay a different rate of a premium, whether they store any vehicles there during the year or not. So I don't think that's a reasonable factor to have such a high rate.
Sure.
Well, the other factor is we did an analysis with the state police and the other different municipalities and stuff like that, and that's the going rate in other areas as well. So it would be kind of unfair for us not to allow that same kind of rate in the village here, where in Chester or in Washingtonville or in Monroe, and the state police that call out for tows, they charge the same rate.
Now, how do they control who gets the tow?
On a roster.
How do they? All right, so you have a roster of people that are capable of doing the towing.
Yes.
How do they get down that roster?
I think you need to, one, be in a certain distance where you can get to the scene in a certain amount of time. You know, obviously we're not going to contract with someone that's in Ellenville where it will take a lot longer. Right. And then I think there's a formal application to the police department. This is...
Rennie, I think I know what you're asking. How do they go about? Let's just say we have A, B, and C.
You got to keep it even.
Yeah. Right. No, they go down the list, okay, and they keep note of who was called last for the last tow. So now A is called. A shows up at the towing scene. Next day we need another tow. B is called. Okay. But B can't show up or doesn't show up within 20 minutes. There's like a provision in here that says you got to show up within 20 minutes. If you don't show up within 20 minutes, B takes the call and says, yeah, we'll be there. But just whatever reason doesn't show, then we go to C. It just rotates around like that. Whoever got the last call, next on the list gets the one after it.
And just to be clear, this is what we would vote on if the board wants to on this public local law is just the increase in the storage and the towing fee. There's another document that has the village's towing policies. I mean, we'll answer questions about either one right now, to be clear. But this is just referring to the actual maximum tow numbers.
You know, the town had a secure lot at one time. And perhaps it's something that the village and the town should look into, is setting that up so that it can be used again as a secure lot. And the municipalities would be able to get the $65 per day per car.
There's a state law that the municipality cannot collect for the storage.
We just need it for a public hearing. You can say something to the board. There's no back and forth. Just to maintain order. But it's an interesting idea, Mr. Andrews.
Okay.
Any other public comment?
Yeah, I'd like to make one. I apologize for being here a moment late. You may have touched on this. I am inferring as much from what Mr. Andrews is saying. One individual opinion, among many, I'm sure. It seems to me the $65 is basically you're paying for parking. And $65 a day for parking, I feel, is totally out of line, regardless of what other municipalities may do. That's no reason, it's the old Johnny jumps off the bridge argument. It's no reason that we have to charge that much. These are tough times. People are stressed. Even in good times, $65 a day for parking. If somebody can't get to it for a week or more, if there's an accident or if...
Well, this isn't for accidents.
I understand. Or if there are exigent circumstances that keep them from reclaiming their car, all of a sudden you're looking at a $500 to $1,000 bill for parking, let alone towing. That's a pretty heavy fine to pay for making a mistake in parking.
Thank you.
One opinion.
Thank you very much. Any further comment? All right, with that, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing on local law number 1.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. All right, next we have the minutes from the village board meeting of January 9th, 2012. Any errors or omissions? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Communications. We have a letter from the Scotchtown Elementary School PTA. Dear Village Board of Trustees, the Scotchtown Avenue Elementary School Parent-Teacher Organization will host its 5th annual Tricky Trade fundraiser at 6:30 on February 3rd, 2012 at the Scotchtown Avenue Elementary School. The SASPTO is requesting permission to put a sign at the Village Square in Church Park. The sign will be put up on January 27th and will be removed by February 4th, 2012. It would state the following. SASPTO Trick or Trade, February 3rd, 6:30, Scotchtown Avenue Elementary School, 120 Scotchtown Avenue, Goshen. The sign will not obstruct any pedestrian or vehicular traffic. Sincerely, Alyssa Briglia, SASPTO President. Any discussion on this? All right. I know it's going to conform and everything should be fine with it just to promote their event for the school. I'll ask for a motion to approve the sign.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have a letter from Burke Catholic. Dear Mayor Roddy and the Village Board, as I'm sure you are aware, our Burke Catholic boys basketball team won the Class B state championship last March. I would like to ask for approval for us to put a sign at the entrance to the village to reward these boys for this great accomplishment. David Predmore has already spoken with Mike Nuzlease, and Mr. Nuzlease believes the spot along Greenwich Avenue, approximately where the Tree City USA sign is, would be best. The sign will be blue with white lettering and read, home of the 2010-2012 New York State BHSAA Class B Boys Basketball State Champions, John S. Burke Catholic Eagles. We thank you in advance for your consideration regarding this matter. Sincerely, Reverend Monsignor James T. Barnes. I don't know what the board's thought is. I think that was a tremendous accomplishment for the Burke boys team. It definitely brought recognition to our community, and it'd be nice to give these gentlemen some recognition. It's a way to kind of promote our community. So I'd be in favor of this, but I don't know if there's any other feelings on the board.
No, I mean, I'd be fully in favor of it. I think it's great when the kids get recognized for the hard work that they put into a team sport. Playing team sport is not an easy thing, and working together and accomplishing something like this, they should be recognized.
No, I agree.
Just so you know, kind of the other aspects of it is the building inspector has reviewed this and he has no objections to it, and he's going to be present at the time when they set the sign, or to decide the location of where to set the sign to make sure it's not impeding on anything, so that we're
Right. Okay, sounds like the board's all.
You just want to modify that so they can have a little thing of the boys' team from 1979 lost in the semifinals of the second night tournament.
If you would hit those foul shots, David.
I know. It's the front end of 101.
At least you didn't need a kickoff.
Oh, wow. I think I touched a nerve.
Forgotten. I said, just see the tape.
We'll take that other.
So we'll put it on Goshen.info.net.
We'll take that under advisement at a future meeting.
Should know too, one of those kids is playing at Lafayette, and my daughter goes to school now, one of the kids that was on that team.
All right, I'll ask for a motion to approve this request from Burke Catholic.
So moved. So moved. Our second move.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Letter from the Goshen Fire Department. Dear Mayor and Trustees, the Goshen Fire Department will host its triennial inspection and parade in Goshen on Saturday, September 8th, 2012. This year's edition of the parade and related events will vary somewhat from similar presentations in the past, and we seek your agreement and comment on various aspects of the event. All public portions of the events will be held on one day, Saturday the 8th. The parade itself will be in the afternoon, lining up at the high school, elementary school, and bus garage area on Scotchtown Avenue. This parade will combine the usual fire parade with the float parade, formerly held later in the evening, so all one parade as opposed to two, and will utilize the following parade route through the village. Left out of the access road onto Scotchtown Ave, Scotchtown to Murray, Murray to North Church Street, North Church Street to Square to Main Street, Main Street to Erie Street to Government Center, and into Government Center to disband. This particular route was adopted after consultations with Chief Watt, the village police chief. Paraders will be served refreshments at the old jail site on Erie Street, utilizing tents erected for this purpose, and following this, the department will conduct a hose lane contest on Erie Street. Shortly after the contest, various awards will be presented and festivities at the site will draw to a close. The reviewing stand for the parade will be placed in the vicinity of Main Street School on Main Street, and we ask permission to create a temporary no parking zone on the northwest side of Main Street between Hill and Erie Streets from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on parade day. We seek permission to close off Erie Street between Main and Montgomery, and also close off Webster Avenue from Port Lane to Erie Street on September 8th from noon until around 9 p.m. We ask that a member of the DPW be available on the 8th at approximately 5 p.m. to assist if any problems are encountered with the village hydrant during a contest. Our White Hat Party will be held at the old jail site on Erie Street on Thursday, September 6th from 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. utilizing the same tents that we utilized on the 8th. We have endeavored to minimize the inconvenience to the community while planning our events in such a way that the community may receive maximum enjoyment from them. It's a long letter. Due to the fact that our parades are a tradition tracing back well over 100 years, that the Goshen citizens not only enjoy them, but may participate in them, that department, fire, police personnel direct traffic at other events, such as at the Memorial Day Parade, and cooperate in security matters during Halloween, that we seek out additional fire personnel for our planned events, and that our volunteer members provide an emergency service to the village 24/7, 365, all without remuneration. We ask that all village fees and reimbursements we give for 2012 events. We will furnish appropriate certificates of assurance for the various venues. Please issue whatever permits, etc., that may be necessary for the parade and related events. A copy of this letter to Police Chief Watt, DPW Supervisor Meselis. I'm asking for their comment regarding our plans. Thank you in advance for your expected cooperation and approvals. I am very truly yours, Elmer T. Budd, the parade chairman. And the chief just made the comment that he's been working closely with Chief Budd and the fire police on this. He has no problem with their request. And they're also requesting Joint Rec cancel the use of Erie Street Fields from 9/6/12. And I believe that's already been taken care of then?
It's already been discussed with Joint Rec and is being taken care of to relocate any events that might have been going on at those fields on those days.
Okay. All right, so a lot of stuff there, but this is something they only do every 3 years. The fire department is very good to the village of Goshen in terms of helping us keep our costs down with the fire police and various parades and other events where we get the fire police directing traffic free of charge as opposed to paying police overtime. And I think they're really going out of the way to make it so it's a little more accessible and less inconvenient to the village, which is very nice for them. So any discussion first?
No, other than, well, I shouldn't say no and then speak. Yes, it's a fabulous event. I mean, this will now be my second time sitting on this board when this event has occurred, and I know it's greatly embraced by our community. The first time I did, and I'm sure it has been for a lot of years now. And Peter could probably talk much better to that than I could, but I think it's a great thing. I think we should approve it.
All right. Any further comments? All right, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. We have a letter from Leukemia Lymphoma Society. Dear Mayor Roddy, I would like to thank you for all your help ensuring that Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's 2011 Light the Night Walk ran smoothly. The Goshen Walk was a huge success and saw its biggest turnout yet, with approximately 1,300 people participating. With donations still coming in every day, we are projecting that the 3 Westchester Hudson Valley area walks will end up raising a combined $875,000. Wow. This would not be possible without your assistance. We are very grateful for all that the village does to make our event so wonderful, especially from Village Clerk Strobel, who works very hard day in and day out for our event. In 2012, we are hoping to again hold the walk in Goshen, New York. We will continue to work with both the Historic Racetrack and the Orange County Government Center to determine the best site for our participants. Every year the walk grows, so for 2012 we are expecting approximately 1,500 people to participate in this event. We will also continue to work with the Village Police Department and the Historic Racetrack to determine the most suitable route for our walkers to use once we have determined where that event will begin. We will submit this for you for approval once we work with the Police Department to create the best route for participants from the village. We are eagerly looking forward to planning our 2012 Light the Night Walk in Goshen. This year we would like to hold the walk on a Saturday night. Our prospective date for 2012 would be Saturday, October 20th from 5 to 9 p.m. I would greatly appreciate if you could get back to us and let us know if this date is suitable for the village of Goshen. Email and number attached. Thank you for your support of the event. I look forward to working with you again this year. The chief wrote that he has no problem with that date, and if we approve it, it should be granted pending reimbursements of all costs associated with the event. So that's all, and I kind of threw it in there, but Meg did a lot to help the Leukemia Lymphoma Society.
She should have Meg's name. So was she.
It is a great event, and they had a great turnout this year. They raised, I had no idea they raised that much money, almost $1 million in 3 events for Leukemia Lymphoma Society. I know Senator Larkin attended this year, as did myself. So I'd like for us to approve this pending the reimbursements of the costs associated with the event, because we did charge them for the overtime that we incurred. I'll ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, items of business. We have an abstract of vouchers here. As examined by members of the board, were approved in accordance with abstract 2011-2012, number 20, check numbers 2817 through 2854, and wire transfer 15, and the amount of $2,503,458.80. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And just a reminder to the public that this is all bills that have already been researched, approved by 3 village trustees or myself, and then we've gone through our treasurer and our staff.
I think maybe just kind of highlight too, maybe the big chunk of that bill is the final payment, I believe, for the removal of the dirt pile, which is incorporated in.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, the number one that's larger than normal is that was the final payment to CJ Nesting took place in this pay period. So thank you. All right, any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Lake to Lake proposal for a dam survey. As we know, our dam was greatly damaged during Hurricane Irene and Tropical Storm Lee. John, do you just want to speak to this proposal quickly for the board?
Sure. If you remember, there was some damage. DEC went out there and had done a report and given some recommendations. To follow up, the village hired a geotechnical engineer to conduct a study of the dam, do some research, and see if we can find the history of the dam. One of the issues that came up, the first recommendation is there is no survey of the dam. So they can't do a complete geotechnical analysis of the dam until we get a survey done. So that's basically what the proposal is. So there's mapping originally from when they first did it, but the village in the past has added on and put some more fill in the material, moved the stream, so we have to basically survey that and locate that. So he can complete his review, so we can do the analysis.
All right, thank you. Just so the public knows, we've been working closely with FEMA on getting funds for the dam repair, as the cost is going to be very substantial to fix the spillway, and this is all part of that process. So thank you, John. I'll ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have the Hurricane Irene Tropical Storm Lee Assessment Relief Act. This has been done by the Goshen School District, and I believe the county barge actually passed this tonight. What this does, it helps out homeowners whose homes were damaged by the hurricanes this past year. And it says that if your home was damaged and your assessment would be reduced by more than 50%, then you can get a rebate, I suppose. I'll just read through it for everyone. Whereas the state of New York has passed and signed into law the Hurricane Irene and Tropical Storm Lee Assessment Relief Act, and whereas this law allows taxing jurisdictions to provide relief to owners of properties that were catastrophically impacted by the storms, and whereas the local taxing jurisdiction must pass a local resolution that makes available the provisions of legislation to taxpayers, now therefore it is hereby resolved that the Village Board of the Village of Goshen opts to extend the terms and benefits of the Hurricane Irene and Tropical Lee Assessment Relief Act to taxpayers of the Village of Goshen. So it's something we're going to opt into, and it's just for substantially damaged homes. It's not just a little damage here or there. I'll ask for a motion on this.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just so that people know exactly what the thing is. It's not just if somebody has 50, but somebody has to have a 50% or higher loss of damage to their value to their home based on damage incurred from the storm. And then it's prorated after that, so it's not like if you have 51%, you get a complete tax break. You get a tax reduction, and then the higher your percentage is, the more reduction is. Just so.
All right. Thank you. All right, any further discussion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, now is the time if we want to move forward with local law number 1, we would have to pass a negative declaration first, and then if we choose to adopt it.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I overlooked on the agenda this evening, I don't know that you formally adopted the towing policy. I know that's been discussed, so I don't know if you want to adopt that. If you're interested in moving on the local law this evening, if you also want to consider adopting a towing policy, it's been a subject of discussion at several meetings.
Yeah, I know that we want to move forward, but I also know that we wanted to add something about fuel and fuel surcharge if it was above $5. Would you recommend that we adopt it as is now and make an amendment later, or hold off altogether?
I think it would be advisable that we had a policy on the books. So I would advise you to adopt the policy. The policy is not part of local law, it's by resolution. So we can amend it by resolution from time to time, so it's relatively, as these things go, it's relatively simple to do. Okay. So I would recommend, if you're satisfied with the balance of the policy, that you move ahead and adopt it this evening.
That's we've discussed the policy as a board prior, and I don't think anyone had any objectives. Objections. We just didn't want to add what Trustee Smith had brought up because I think that's a good idea. Would the board be in favor of moving on the towing policy tonight?
Sure.
Okay. Then I'll ask for a motion to approve the village board towing policy.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, is the board in favor of local law 1 regards to the towing fees?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll read this negative declaration. The village board of the Village of Goshen as lead agency hereby issues a negative declaration pursuant to the applicable provisions of the State Environmental Quality Review Act set forth at 6 NYCRR Part 617 in the action adoption of local law 1 of 2012. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. And now for the actual local law. Whereas the village board for the Village of Goshen has heretofore conducted a public hearing on proposed local law number 1 of 2012 entitled amending section 54-6 of Article 1 of the Code of the Village of Goshen entitled impoundment, redemption of vehicles, and whereas the said public hearing has been closed, and whereas the village board has received, heard, and reviewed all public comment provided during the public hearing process, now therefore it is hereby resolved that the village board of the Village of Goshen hereby adopts local law number 1 of 2012. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Good. I want to thank everyone who came out for the public hearing tonight. A lot of good discussion. And I think based on the research the board has done, we're going to move forward on this. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Mayor, trustee comments? Trustee Stewart?
Not much. The crews were out obviously the other day over the weekend for the snowstorm. But fortunately, it's been a pretty mild winter. Hope that keeps up. That's it.
All right. Trustee Char?
Pretty quiet, but I'd ask everyone to please remember to slow down in school zones during school hours. Thanks.
All right. Trustee Smith?
We had an issue with the senior center over the weekend, last week there, where a transformer blew out, Soreski's back there, so we're working on trying to figure out, it's been repaired. Obviously it upset some of our population of the village here, where they couldn't use the senior center for a couple of days, which I don't blame them. And I was amazed that even in the dark, with no heat, that they were still in there playing cards and everything as well. But, so we got to try to decide on, how we're going to recoup the cost of fixing it.
When's the next meeting?
Wednesday.
Okay.
So, because, I'm of the belief that it didn't occur on our property, but it caused the power to be out at the senior center. It's actually on Soreski's property, but it's an orange, it's a transformer that was installed by Orange and Rockland, I guess, at one time, but we had to have a private contractor come out and do it, so it's going to be an issue down the road, but
Okay.
power's back on and everybody's happy, and that's the main thing.
Card games have continued.
Everything is all the exercise classes, everything's all back in full swing with heat.
All right. All right, thank you very much. Trustee Matthews couldn't be here tonight, so I'm going to read the water report. Crews repaired a water service leak at 202 Greenwich Avenue on January 19th. My comments are very brief for tonight. In sewer, we're still moving ahead with the trunk line replacement. That should be done in the next few weeks. The village signage committee continues to meet. I think we've had some very productive meetings. I want to thank Joel, who's here, and Rory, who's here, who have been participating. I think we're going to come out with some really nice final products. And this past Friday, the joint economic development force between the village and the town met again, and that's also progressing very well, talking about different ways about how to improve Goshen's economic development. and whether they're looking at property and looking at code and all that stuff. So I've enjoyed those meetings. That's all I had. I'll open it up for citizen comments.
Rory Brady, 68 St. John Street. Just happened to come across, recently Governor Cuomo had signed into legislation, new law regarding state and local agencies, which you guys would qualify as, to make available documents before or after a meeting, specifically talking about agency websites. So I don't know where our website fits into it. It's somewhat dynamic, it's regularly updated, so I don't know if there was any plans to how do they adhere to this law. You guys had a plan in place or what you guys want to do?
Okay.
Thank you.
You just saved Joel from asking a question. He sent me an email about the same thing.
Stole my thunder.
It's a really helpful, and it's going to be a good local law. It's going to be very helpful for the public. Getting to where we need to be is going to be a little challenging because our current municipal website really doesn't allow the easy upload and taking off of documents and such. So in the next few weeks, I'm going to be coming to the board with different numbers and ideas about a potential redoing our website. And Meg is going to be working closely with me on that to figure out a way to make it so in-house we can put those documents up as needed. And I believe the local law goes, that law goes into effect February 2nd. So at that point, whatever meetings documents are going to be discussed in the meeting that night are going to be available. So we're going to do everything we can to comply. The website, it's going to take, it's not going to be a 1 week thing. It's going to take a little time because we'll have to find someone, take different proposals into account, weigh our options, find out what we want to add to it. I have some ideas of things that a website doesn't do now I'd like to see it do. And I'm sure the board will have feedback on that as well. And then we'll get that website up, make it a little more accessible. That's kind of where we're at right now. But we haven't discussed how we're going to implement it as a full board. So that's just kind of my interpretation as of now.
Thank you.
I know I've said before, and I've been lax about it, but in my other capacity, I represent a lot of the villages and towns in Hudson Valley, and I come across, these websites on a daily basis. Some of them are very good, so I'll try to make a point. I said I was going to do that before, of noting some of the ones that I think are the best, sending them along so you can look at them.
Okay. Yeah, myself and Meg too.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of them that have links for a lot of things. They have the DPW, and they list the police department, the trustees, the mayor. There's even some that allow you to email people to the village government and things like that, which isn't all that hard in today's technology. But there's an awful lot of them that are pretty sophisticated. Yeah,
I'd like us to be more on the cutting edge at this point. And this is a drum that Joel's been beating for a while as well, and to his credit, I guess the state listened. All right, any other citizen comments?
Good. Okay. Just to follow up on that, I have a number of very specific suggestions to make with regard to the function of the website. I've offered this to Trustee Stewart before. I'll be glad to spend some time and offer very specific suggestions about the website.
Okay.
And it's well overdue. Well overdue. Even without this law, but the reason I sent out the email to you is I believe that my reading of that article, the council would confirm this, I believe requires at this point that the website be changed.
Actually, it doesn't.
No, not that the law specifically requires something specific on the website, but the provisions that it calls for are not doable on our website easily without a lot of effort.
I understand it.
Well, I was going to say, kind of the way the legislative process works, is actually an opt-out, if you will, that says if you don't have to expend any money, you don't have to comply.
We're not going to go in that route because we will comply. But the thought is the state didn't want to put this out, and then all the villages and towns say, you gave us another unfunded mandate.
Right.
So they put that in there.
Basically, we could comply with the law, with the site as we have it now. It would just require more work than we would probably want to invest. It's cheaper to go out and redo the site and say.
Just as kind of, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just as kind of an editorial comment, I've reached out to NICOM's counsel because I think that what village and town boards do in terms of resolutions and correspondence is relatively easily accomplished to comply with the law. I think what planning boards and zoning boards do is a little more difficult in terms of having maps and stormwater pollution prevention plans, available in PDF format. And,
I can speak to that.
Certainly, I do. Thanks. Sometimes in planning boards you might have a 77 sheet plan set that's submitted regarding a project, and it may be updated several times during the course of the project. So it's unknown. Do you leave the old plan up? Do you have to have all 77 sheets up? Do you put new iterations up each time? What's associated with that? So I think that's the more problematic aspect of the law, which overall I do think is a good thing, but implementing it is another issue.
Glad to hear that. I can speak to that. It has actually come up before the ERB because I've brought it up, and it has been discussed there. I made the suggestion to the ERB that they take it back to the planning board, and I've made this informally suggestion at the planning board level, that the planning board, when sites are submitted, when site plans are submitted, require not only the hard copy plans, but a PDF of those plans. Anybody who is presenting a site plan has a PDF. Those site plans come from computer-generated plans. The same way it gets spit out to a printer, it gets spit out to a PDF. Every developer that is submitting plans, I guarantee you, has on their computer a PDF of that plan. Whether it's 1 page or 101 pages, it's not a lot of difference in terms of the computer file and the ease of posting it. It's a file, it's one post, and even if the plan changes 5 times, it just means that each time somebody brings another plan into the planning board, that new plan gets posted to the planning board site. I would suggest that this is beneficial both for the planning board and the community, and ultimately, I believe, the developers, in that everybody can see all at the same time what's under discussion. If there's a project that's being proposed, the entire community can see exactly what that is, because the site plan would be there on the planning board page. And I brought it up with the ERB because frequently the ERB is finding themselves discussing things without a plan in hand, or a plan has changed and they don't have the updated plan. They want to distribute plans to the various members of the board, and they have no way to do that other than hard copy. They've talked about getting a file cabinet here in Village Hall, and everybody at the ERB has agreed that it would be beneficial if they could have access to PDFs of the site plans. So I think it would be beneficial for the planning board, as part of the planning process, to demand those plans as part of the application. And then it's easy for the village to be in compliance. Moving on. On the bonding of the removal of the dirt, has the borrowing been converted yet from the serial bonds to long-term bonding?
No, the serial bonds, I'm sorry, the
BANs to serial
comes
bonds.
due in April. And we timed it, so both BANs are coming due in April. And at that point, before then, we're going to start working with our financial advisor, and then we'll determine if we want to keep them in BANs for another year or convert them to serial bonds.
Okay.
But that is not happening.
Do we know at this point what the consolidated aggregate cost of the removal of the dirt is?
I don't have that in front of me.
Do we have a rough estimate?
I think it's slightly over $9 million. But I don't have it in front of me, so I don't want to be...
I'm not looking to nail you down. I'm just looking, it's more than 9 and less than 10.
Yes. Closer to 9, though.
Okay. We had talked several times of the total aggregate cost of the litigation and arbitration with the town.
I just gave it to you were going to speak to that tonight.
$45,288.75. And just for a breakout, that's from March of 2010 to August of 2011. And in terms of the litigation, well, the onset of litigation, which is preparation of filing the notice of claim, the summons and complaint, and then the court proceeding when it was determined whether we should go to arbitration or litigation, that aspect was $8,141.25. The arbitration itself, which was from March of 2011 to August of 2011, $37,288.25. $147.50.
So those three are added together then?
Well, those two are added together. So the total from March 2010 to August of 2011, which begins with a notice of claim that the village served on the town and culminates with the deposition or the testimony of the final witness before we entered into negotiations, was $45,288.75. I'm on monthly retainer with the village, so all of the negotiations that took place between middle of August to the end of November, whenever we finished, were accomplished under my retainer.
Of 11?
Of 11, that's correct.
And there were no costs prior to, you said March of 2010?
March of 2010.
And there were no costs prior to that?
That's correct.
And those costs include all of the expert witnesses?
Those are my attorney's fees. I did not pay whatever expert witnesses would have submitted bills directly. They were submitted bills
so those are
directly.
just, that's
are
not,
my fees.
that's not an aggregate cost, that's just the legal expense.
Those are the only fees.
So on top of that, we have the expert witnesses and the cost for the litigator? I mean the arbitrator?
There would be a cost to the arbitrator, yes.
Which is why it was essential for the village to end it by getting a settlement together.
Right. And roughly what did those two additional costs come to?
I don't have that in front of me.
Can we have that at the next meeting?
Sure.
The arbitrator and the expert witnesses?
I don't see any problem with that.
Good. You've already covered the, with regard to this open meeting law, what procedure, other than redoing the website, have you discussed out of the public meeting a set of procedures at this point to comply with this?
As I said, we haven't discussed that as a board yet because it's still a new law.
Okay,
But we're going to put stuff together, and as I mentioned before, we plan on complying.
good. I'm very happy to hear that. This is a long time coming. On the hydrologist that was hired, who is that hydrologist, the firm, and has there been findings at this point?
You're referring to the dam?
Yeah.
Can you speak to
That
that?
would be a geotechnical engineer, not a hydrologist.
I refer to him because Mr. Tully had referred to him as a hydrologist.
Okay, well, they're geotechnical engineers. Nellick and Tully, they're a firm out of New Jersey specializing in dams and geotechnical investigation.
But no relation to.
But no relation to our town.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks. I was curious about the outage at the senior center. You said that it was a transformer on Soreski's property installed by O&R, but that the liability falls to the village on this?
It was installed, back before the West was won. So it was quite a number of years ago. And O&R said it's on private property and they're not responsible for it. And obviously the main thing was to get it fixed.
Sure.
So we went and we got a contractor to come in, and it was past like the capability of O'Malley's, who generally does the electrical work around the village. It was out of their purview, so we got a different contractor that came in and restored it. It took about a day and a half or so of working on it to do it.
This will be split with the town?
Correct. And now I'm going to be in a meeting this week, and we're going to determine how we're going to go sue, because it's not on the village property, but it affected us as far as getting the senior center having dollars.
Yeah, I'm just a little confused because if it's not on village property or town property, and it's O&R's line, shouldn't they be liable for it?
We have to see. According to O&R, they're not liable for it, and they didn't fix it. And it isn't on our property.
Is it a low enough cost that it's not worth challenging?
But the person's property it is on,
Right.
okay? It doesn't make any difference to them.
Is there an
It's the
easement?
same. I don't know.
I think they're still investigating at this point.
I mean, there's still got to be a lot of stuff done, but the main thing was to get the power restored. which we've
Oh,
come.
clearly, that's step number
Okay,
one.
but the point I'm trying to explain to you, Joel, is that the transformer is not on our property, okay? But it would be the same as if you had a transformer on your property of some sort and it ran electric to somebody else's house. It's not your responsibility to make sure that they have electric going to their house. You see what I'm saying? And O&R said, I mean, it's an antiquated thing that blew out, and it was installed many moons ago, probably long before there was any invention of the senior center there that it was there. And they said they're not responsible for it. So now we have to go, we have to figure out who is responsible.
Yeah. Well, that's the part that I have a problem with.
Well, that's the part that I have a problem with too, and that's why
just moving on, you had mentioned the fire department before. Previously, this board had passed a resolution assessing fines against people with multiple false alarms. Do we have any idea within the current budget year what's being collected under that provision?
I'm sure it's ascertainable.
Are we collecting anything? Are we assessing fines? Or is that coming directly from the fire department?
I'm not sure, Joel. I'll have to look into that for you.
Meg? You have any? Does it go through the...
Can you address the board? And I'll look at
does it go through the front office?
I'll look into that for you.
And two final things. One, the previous regular meeting, I had requested the board to again consider assessing the feasibility of renaming a byway in the village for Martin Luther King, and had zero response. Do you care to respond in some way at this point? I'm merely asking that the board assess the feasibility.
Well, we haven't discussed it as a board. I can tell you from my perspective that I have a huge respect for the work of Dr. Martin Luther King. I just think that logistically, of changing a street name, you have to think about the impact on every single business or resident on that street.
That's what a feasibility assessment does.
And without spending money on a feasibility assessment, I think we can understand that it would place a substantial burden logistically on any residences on that street. And I think that we recognize Dr. Martin Luther King's works in many other ways in the village. And I would recommend maybe if next year for Martin Luther King Day, if you'd like to put together a committee of putting together some kind of ceremony to honor Dr. King's work, I'll be happy to help you out and do whatever I can to work on that.
Okay, thank you.
Just to chime in my 2 cents on that, Joe, I probably wouldn't be in favor of it, myself personally. And again, I echo what Kyle says, nobody would dispute. That certainly Martin Luther King doesn't deserve it, but I would be, if we were going to go through all the feasibility assessment and all that stuff and spend the money for it, I would rather it have something to do with somebody who's a Goshenite, somebody who was born and raised in Goshen and had ties to Goshen, if we were even going to consider that. But right now, I mean, budget-wise, we really don't have money to consider things that aren't a necessity. So that's just my take on it.
The last one was a forwarded request from Mr. Hickok, who is covering the town tonight. A friend of his recently was issued a parking summons, and the officer said, well, why didn't you park in the municipal lot? Which brought the response, well, what municipal lot? I didn't see any signs for a municipal lot. And in thinking about this, Donnie said, would you ask the board to consider doing some signage which would be beneficial to business in the village and certainly beneficial ecologically, environmentally.
Which lot is he referring to?
Any lot. If you go downtown, there are no signs pointing you to municipal parking. And it would be a simple matter to put up a couple of signs with arrows just saying municipal parking.
There's not a sign in front of where the DPW is? Maybe it needs to be bigger. I just think there is some.
If you're coming into town on Main Street or West Main Street or North or South Church Street, you don't see any signage directing you to municipal parking that I'm aware of.
Well, I'll speak to the superintendent.
And somebody coming into the village to shop or do business or to have dinner, whatever, it'd be nice if they saw a sign directing them to a place where they might be able to park. I've certainly noticed now that Kelly Jeans is open that parking is pretty jammed around there, and there's nothing really directing them over to the municipal lot.
I think it's something good to look into. Any other citizen comments? Yes, Ray.
After that fire that took place over there in Cornwall a couple of weeks ago, one of the statements that was in the write-up that some of the hydrants weren't working. And I was just wondering how often the hydrants in our village are checked out, especially during, at winter time when something can be frozen up.
Do you answer?
I don't know the answer, I can find out. I'll let you know.
All right. Hearing no other citizen comments, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.